Family only, my mother-in-law Margaret said sweetly, closing the office door in my face. I'm sure you understand, dear. I stood there in the hallway of Sullivan Industries headquarters, my hands clenched at my sides. Through the frosted glass, I could see the shapes of my husband's family gathering around the conference table for their monthly business meeting, a meeting I wasn't allowed to attend. Despite being married to the CEO's son for 3 years, despite having an MBA from Wharton, despite having doubled the efficiency of their shipping department during my brief stint as a temporary consultant. But of course, none of that mattered, because I wasn't born a Sullivan. Don't take it personally, Kate, my husband Thomas said later that night, loosening his tie as he got ready for bed. It's just tradition. The business stays in the family. I am family, I replied quietly. We're married. He gave me that patronizing smile I'd grown to hate. You know what I mean. Blood family. Besides, you've got your little consulting projects to keep you busy. Little consulting projects. As if the work I did helping struggling companies turn themselves around was somehow less significant than his family's mid-sized shipping company. The quarterly numbers looked rough, I commented, watching his reaction in the mirror, especially the Asia-Pacific division. His smile faltered slightly. Been peeking at confidential documents again. No, I read the public financial statements, like any interested investor would. I turned to face him. You're losing market share to smaller, more agile competitors. Your infrastructure is outdated and your management structure is. Enough? He cut me off sharply. You don't know everything, Kate. The Sullivans have been running this business for 3 generations. We know what we're doing. I let it drop, but I knew better. Sullivan Industries was hemorrhaging money, locked into outdated practices by a family too proud to admit they needed help. A family that saw me as nothing more than their precious hair's decorative wife. The next morning, I made a decision. I'm starting my own company, I announced over breakfast. Thomas barely looked up from his phone. That's nice, honey. What kind of company? Logistics and supply chain management consulting. That got his attention. You can't be serious. That would be competing with Sullivan Industries. I took a sip of my coffee, enjoying his discomfort. Not directly. I'll be focusing on helping smaller companies optimize their operations. Besides, since I'm not family, what I do shouldn't concern the Sullivans, right? He frowned. Kate. I've already rented an office space, I continued, and I have my first client meeting this afternoon. Does Mother know about this? I smiled. Why would she need to? It's not a family matter. The office I'd rented was small but functional in a modern building across town from Sullivan Industries' aging headquarters. I'd spent weeks preparing for this moment, using my industry contacts and reputation to set up meetings with potential clients. My first client was Zhang Shipping, a rising star in the Asia-Pacific market, the same market where Sullivan Industries was struggling. Miss Harrison, Mr. Zhang greeted me warmly. Your reputation precedes you. Your work with Atlantic Freight was impressive. Thank you, I said, pulling up my presentation. But please call me Kate. By the end of the meeting, I had my first major contract. Within 6 months, Phoenix Logistics was handling consulting for 3 of the fastest-growing shipping companies in Asia. Our innovative approaches and cutting-edge technology solutions were making waves in the industry. Thomas, meanwhile, grew increasingly distant. He spent more time at Sullivan Industries, attending endless family meetings where they presumably discussed their declining market position. You could help them, you know, my best friend Sophia said over lunch one day. Save the family business. I shook my head. They don't want my help. They made that very clear. I paused, considering, but maybe they'll accept help from someone else. That evening, I registered a new company, Avalon Partners, a private equity firm specializing in acquiring and turning around struggling logistics companies. The ownership was carefully hidden behind layers of shell corporations. As Phoenix Logistics grew, I quietly built Avalon's war chest. Every successful consulting job, every innovative solution we developed, brought me closer to my goal. Then came the news I'd been waiting for. Sullivan Industries is looking for investors, my source at Goldman Sachs informed me. They're hemorrhaging cash. Word is they'll consider any serious offer. I smiled, thinking of all those closed doors, all those family-only meetings. Set up a meeting, but use Avalon's attorneys. I don't want the Sullivans to know who they're really dealing with. 2 weeks later, I sat in my office reviewing Avalon's offer to Sullivan Industries. The terms were generous but came with conditions. complete restructuring of management, modernization of systems, and new blood in key positions. My phone buzzed, a text from Thomas. Family emergency meeting tonight. Don't wait up. I could imagine the scene, the Sullivan family gathered around their conference table, Margaret at the head, all of them trying to figure out how their precious family empire had come to this. Time to head over, I told my assistant. She looked confused. To Sullivan Industries. I thought the Avalon meeting wasn't until tomorrow. I smiled, gathering my things. It's not, but I have a family meeting to crash. The security guard at Sullivan Industries recognized me, nodding as I walked in. The old building was quiet at this hour, most employees gone home. But light spilled from under the main conference room door, along with the sound of raised voices. I took a deep breath, straightened my jacket, and opened the door. The arguing stopped immediately. Every Sullivan face turned to stare at me. Thomas, his mother Margaret, his brothers Peter and James, their wives, who were apparently family enough to attend, and old Gerald Sullivan himself, patriarch of the clan. Kate. Thomas stood up. What are you doing here? This is a family meeting, yes, I know. I walked to the head of the table, opposite Margaret, and we have a lot to discuss. How dare you? Margaret sputtered. This is a private meeting about Avalon Partners' offer to buy controlling interest in Sullivan Industries. I placed my briefcase on the table. Yes, I know all about that. Thomas frowned. Have you been spying on us? No, I said calmly. I've been waiting for you to finally admit you need help. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table, and now I'm here to offer it. Old Gerald picked up the folder, his hands shaking slightly as he opened it. What is this? That, I smiled, is proof that I own Avalon Partners. And tomorrow morning, I'm going to make an offer to buy Sullivan Industries. The silence that followed was deafening. This is ridiculous, Margaret said, but her voice trembled slightly. You can't possibly have the resources to buy Sullivan Industries. I pulled out another document. Phoenix Logistics made $40 million in profit last year. Avalon Partners manages a $2 billion investment fund. Would you like to see the proof? Peter, Thomas's older brother, snatched the paper from his mother's hands. These numbers can't be real. You're just a what, Peter? A woman? An outsider? Someone not good enough to sit in your precious family meetings? I leaned forward. While you were all busy protecting your traditions, I was building something bigger than Sullivan Industries could ever be. Why are you doing this? Thomas asked quietly. He looked lost, like he was seeing me for the first time. To hurt us? For revenge? I softened my tone slightly. No, Thomas. I'm doing this to save the company you all claim to love so much. I gestured at the financial reports spread across the table. You're 3 months away from bankruptcy. Your Asia-Pacific division is bleeding money. Your technology is a decade behind the competition, and your management structure is a mess. Old Gerald cleared his throat. And what exactly do you propose to do about it? All eyes turned to the Sullivan patriarch. In his prime, Gerald had built Sullivan Industries from a small regional player into a national force. But he'd spent the last decade watching his children slowly dismantle his legacy. I propose, I said, to do what I've been trying to do for 3 years. Modernize your operations, streamline your management, and make Sullivan Industries competitive again. By taking control from the family, Margaret's voice dripped with disdain. No, I corrected, by saving it from the family. I opened my laptop and pulled up a presentation. This is what Sullivan Industries could be. I've already implemented these systems at 3 of the fastest growing shipping companies in Asia. Your competitors are evolving. You need to evolve too. And if we refuse your offer, James, the youngest Sullivan brother, asked, then I'll watch you go bankrupt, buy the assets at auction for pennies on the dollar, and implement my plans anyway. I met each of their eyes in turn. The only difference is whether you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem. Margaret stood up abruptly. This is outrageous. Gerald, you can't seriously be considering. Sit down, Margaret. Old Gerald's voice carried the weight of decades of authority. She sat. He turned to me, his weathered face unreadable. You've built all this in just 3 years? Yes. While my children were busy excluding you from meetings and protecting their turf? Yes. A slow smile spread across his face. The first real smile I'd seen from him in years. Well done, Father. Margaret protested. He held up a hand, silencing her. I've watched you all slowly destroy everything I built because you were too proud to admit when you needed help. Too convinced that being born a Sullivan made you automatically qualified to run a modern shipping company. He looked at me with newfound respect. Meanwhile, the one person who could have helped us was sitting right here, being told she wasn't family enough. Thomas reached for my hand under the table. I pulled away. The offer expires tomorrow at noon, I said, standing up. If you accept, we'll begin restructuring immediately. If you refuse, I shrugged. Well, I hear bankruptcy court is unpleasant this time of year. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and one more thing. If you accept, the first change will be ending the family-only policy for meetings. Merit, not birth, will determine who sits at this table. The next morning, I arrived at my office to find Thomas waiting outside. How long? He asked as I unlocked the door. How long what? How long have you been planning this? I considered the question as I made coffee. I wasn't, at first. I just wanted to build something of my own since your family made it clear I wasn't welcome in their business. I handed him a cup. But when I saw how successful Phoenix Logistics was becoming, while Sullivan Industries kept declining, well, let's just say opportunity knocked. You could have told me. Like you told me about all those family meetings, all those decisions that affected our future. I sat down at my desk. You made your choice, Thomas. You chose your family's traditions over your wife's abilities. Now I've made mine. He stared into his coffee cup. I'm sorry. I know, and I did know. Thomas wasn't a bad person, just someone who'd never learned to stand up to his family. But sorry isn't enough anymore. Things have to change. And if they don't accept your offer, then Phoenix Logistics will continue growing, Avalon Partners will find other investments, and Sullivan Industries will become another cautionary tale about family businesses that couldn't adapt. My phone buzzed. A message from Gerald Sullivan's private number. The board has voted. We accept your terms. When can you start? I showed Thomas the message. Looks like you've got a new boss. What about us? He asked quietly. That depends, I replied. Are you ready to see me as more than just your wife? To treat me as an equal partner, not just in marriage but in business? He nodded slowly. I think I'm starting to. The restructuring of Sullivan Industries was exactly as challenging as I'd expected. Margaret resigned rather than work under my leadership. Peter and James initially resisted every change, but when the first quarter results showed a 15% increase in profits, they became more cooperative. Thomas surprised me. Once free from his family's shadow, he proved to be an innovative thinker and a strong ally in modernizing the company. Our marriage, strained for so long by his family's dynamics, began to heal as we worked together as true partners. 1 year later, I sat in a Sullivan Industries conference room, now modernized with state-of-the-art technology, leading the monthly strategy meeting. Around the table sat a mix of Sullivan family members and outside executives, all chosen for their skills rather than their last names. Quarterly results are in, I announced. Asia-Pacific division shows 40% growth. European expansion is ahead of schedule, and our technology platform has been rated top in the industry. Old Gerald, who'd stayed on as an advisor, beamed from his seat near the door. Well done, Kate. You've done what I always hoped my children would do, made Sullivan Industries better than it was before. No, I corrected him gently. We did it together, as a real family business should work. After the meeting, Thomas found me in my office. Mother called today. She's thinking of coming back, maybe doing some consulting work. I smiled. Tell her she's welcome to apply. Through HR, like everyone else. She won't like that. No, I agreed, but she'll respect it. And that's more important. Looking out my office window at the city skyline, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. From excluded outsider to company savior, from underestimated wife to respected CEO. You know what the best part is? I said to Thomas. What's that? Now when someone says family business, they're talking about something we built together, not just a name we inherited. He kissed my cheek. Speaking of family, have you thought more about what we discussed? I rested a hand on my still flat stomach, smiling. Yes, and this time, our child will never have to worry about being family enough for anyone.